like Matt said, I'm Sainjeev. I'm a master's student at ASU, finishing up my last year. And I also do UX research and design at a company called Black Diamond Advanced Technology, where I work with Amanda. So Axure is the prototyping software that we use for our logo design. So that's kind of how I got into Axure. Yeah, so let's jump right in. So prototyping, there's a ton of different prototyping softwares out there, like I'm sure you know, but Axure is definitely in its own class because it has such a steep learning curve. But the reason why I think it has such a steep learning curve is because it kind of packs in everything into one little software. So you can go from a flow design to making your own wireframes in the software, so you don't have to upload your static wireframes, and then you can take that, add micro interactions, and make a full product from it. So I think that's why Axure is pretty cool compared to some of the other ones, but this is by no means a conversion to like get you to stop using what you're using, use Axure. This is just show you what else is out there and what other tools you can add to your arsenal. So these are some tools that you can use to learn how to use Axure. So I didn't really have, or we both didn't have anyone who formally taught us how to use Axure. It was kind of self-taught. So we would do a project, and whenever we got to a point where we didn't know how to do something, we would look it up. So one of the first tools I would suggest using is Axure's actual site, where they have a ton of tutorials, videos, and pretty much everything that we're going to be covering today. Another one is Humble UX, and Humble UX makes a lot of the Axure prototype or layouts already. So all you have to do is just add your stuff, and you're pretty much ready to go. They also have a ton of icon packs, so you can get your prototypes to look exactly like the system you're trying to make or create. So that's really cool. And then the last one is YouTube, because YouTube's amazing, and you can literally learn anything from it. So if you just type in Axure in YouTube, this is what pops up, and it has a ton of tutorials on how to use stuff, and the video demonstrations are pretty key. Besides that, so we're going to just jump right in. So projects, Axure's definitely a hands-on type of software. So I would say you learn a lot more doing the hands-on stuff. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to take a project and walk through the entirety of the whole design phase, starting from like a workflow, then going into wireframing, linking those wireframes together, and then adding micro interactions to make like a complete product. So we're going to just jump right in. So this is what Axure's layout looks like. This is pretty stock. So if you just downloaded the free version of it, this is what it should look like. Besides this little bottom part that says masters. This is like some, does yours have masters? Yeah. Okay, never mind. So everyone should have masters up there. So at the top, you just have your normal taskbar with your files, your clipboard, your copy and paste, your undo, redo. And then you also have your selection keys. You're probably, for most projects, you're going to be living right here in this selection phase. And for workflows, you're going to be in connection. For pen, that's up to you really how you use it. You also have up here, you have your preview, so you can always preview what you're working on. You also have your publish and share. So in case you're working with groups, you can add notes or annotations on your different stuff that you're adding into your prototype. Here on the left hand, we have your pages. So these are all your different pages that are on your one prototype or your one Axure file. And you can add as many pages as you want and link them together and whatever. Right below, we have our libraries. It's going to be set to default, but if you go click through them, you can go to flow, and you have like your specific flow type objects or widgets. Axure calls them widgets. And you have your icons. These are your standard icons, but you can always download new icon packs and just upload them, so that way you have your custom icons. You can also create custom libraries, so that way if you're working with a certain project and you know you're going to be using certain icons and objects and widgets, all that's already preloaded. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then down here is masters. We're going to definitely go over that in a bit. And then over here we have our interaction page and our style page. So under properties, you can see the different cases or interactions you can have with that one page. And then as you add objects, each object, this will change with each object you add. So you can add different cases to specific objects, to specific widgets. You can go into style and you can style edit everything. So that way, I would not worry about the styling until you get to that final stage of your prototype, but it's there when you need it.
So wire it and then style it.
Exactly. So the project we're going to be working on, it's an app idea that I came up with. It kind of solved the first world problem that I have. So I use Postmates constantly to deliver food because I hate driving places. So, but I also use DoorDash. So I find myself bouncing back between these apps to see who has the fastest delivery time and like the cheapest delivery price. So for this project, we're going to be designing an app that compares Postmates and DoorDash and food delivery services. So we're going to start out with a workflow. So just like to gauge the room, what would be, like, anyone who uses any food delivery app, like what would be your first step that you would take?
Decide what you want to eat.
Decide what you want to eat? Okay, so what we're going to do is
It's usually not my first step. I go into the app.
Are you talking groceries or are you talking like fast food delivery or whatever?
Food, mainly food delivery that's already like prepped for you.
Oh, okay.
So if we're just going to go to our flow library, and how objects and widgets work is you click on one and then you drag it out. So now we have our little square right here. So for our first step, we're going to do figure out what you want to eat.
Speaking of eating, there's snacks and stuff in the kitchen. We won't DoorDash it though.
And clicking on any object, you can automatically enter text. So if you just double click an object, you can enter text into it. So so we figure out what we want to eat. What do you think the next step would be?
Check the price.
Check the price. Yeah.
Or time.
Or time. Yeah. So we can actually. So we're going to drag out another rectangle, and we're going to just throw this over here to showcase another thing. So check prices.
Would you suggest not like alt click dragging in any situation? I don't know if it messes up with the back end or.
Check it out.
Isn't it alt? No, if you did the one you already did because you've already stylized it.
Mm-hmm.
If you click.
Is it duplicated?
Yes, duplicate it.
Oh,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, you totally do that.
I think we're good.
So the reason why we just kind of stuck this over here is because we're going to highlight another tool that actually does. So if we just click on this and then select both of these, we can go to align and distribute, and that makes it way easier to just quickly move things where they need to be. So we're just going to align this by the center, and it automatically just snaps it into place. So we're just going to go two more down.
I feel like I'd want to know where I want to eat.
Where you'd want to eat? Okay.
Too, after I figure out what I want to eat. Sometimes where I want to eat depends on what I want.
Like if you want Asian food or Mexican.
I don't know what I want.
Okay.
Maybe like a genre of food.
Yeah, genre of food. Yeah, like Mexican, Greek.
Yeah.
Greek or Mexican, one of those.
You'd be one of those with multiple paths in.
There are multiple paths of the food delivery app, which is great. Like I did DoorDash an hour ago, and I went in and I looked at the pictures and was like, I feel like Vietnamese, and then I went to their search and picked Vietnamese.
And it looks for stuff like around you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it figures out what's available
Near me. So they gave me 3 Vietnamese restaurants, and then I looked at their menus.
I like doing it and getting in my car and then driving around to see where.
And you go home, and then you order it.
I like it when the actual delivery people bring me the food with without me even knowing about it. I just opened the door and they're like, here's the Chinese food today.
We knew that you were gonna be home at 5:15.
Yeah, I don't even have to worry about it. I mean, somebody just shows up and gives me food.
Auto
That would
order
be the
every
best
day at
way.
5:15.
That requires
Making all these
mind reading
decisions is
update on
just,
your phone.
Machine learning gone right.
yeah.
The next version of, food delivery.
Yeah.
Figures out your
Called food stocking.
They're just surprising you with different foods, the way you don't eat the same thing all the time.
So like once we have like our flow kind of going where we need it, we can go to our connect feature at the top, and it automatically picks out these points where you want to connect it, and you can just click and drag on the ground. And boom, before you know it, we'll have like a workflow going. So I went ahead and made a workflow for this. So we're just going to quickly jump to it. Okay, so I started off with opening up like a delivery app and then going into knowing what you want to eat. So you either know what you want to eat or you don't know what you want to eat. And then that can go into selecting a category if you don't, scrolling through the options, deciding on a restaurant, yes or no, and then that whole loop can last a lifetime, it seems like.
Yeah.
And then, but if you do know what you want to eat, you can go down, search for that restaurant, choose the, like compare the delivery price. If you want to use that service, you can go ahead and order and confirm your order, or if not, you can open up a secondary delivery app and then search for that restaurant, compare that price, either use that secondary delivery app or not. And I chose to stop at using a secondary delivery app because this process could go on and on depending on how many food delivery apps you have.
Do you not consider distance in your decision of what to choose? Based on delivery time?
I didn't incorporate distance mainly because a lot of the apps already have like your location setting, so it's kind of just like shoots you whatever's like the closest to you.
It should only be showing you what's available for
Right.
Within your
I
like,
always
area.
feel, though, like an hour away. Like there's been times where I'm like, you're not gonna, like it's like 45 minutes away. I'm like,
the most they'll do it.
yeah.
But it won't show on like the main page. You have to search for it.
Gotcha.
So this is pretty much how to make a workflow, and how you organize it, pretty much up to you. Is there any like questions on this process, like, or anything that you see here that you'd want to know how to do? If you want to do like the yes and no's, you can just go to your default library and then scroll down. There's a label bar right here, and you can type out whatever you want, and then you can also, if you want to change like the font and like text color and all that, you can double click what you just like typed out and then go to style, and then all those options are right there. You can center it, right align, left align.
So those labels don't tie to any kind of workflow, BPM automated workflow in this thing.
No, but you totally could do that. You could add interactions to your workflow and then have trees expanding and minimizing as you go through it. We're going to go through how to do that, but not technically with a workflow. Yeah. So now that we have like our workflow, we're going to assume that all the back end UX research has been done, and we're going to just jump right into designing. So,
like most times.
most times. So, first we're just going to go over how to layer things in Axure, and then how to quickly do transitions. So I just took screenshots from my phone on my like clock app, and then getting to a timer. But just for like, if anyone wants to follow along, I'm just gonna quickly do this.
Do you want to say maybe how to make a new page?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
about to do that right now. So I'm just gonna style these real quick.
You just select it and hit command V, I think. Wherever that counts in the list or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Shortcut queens.
So if you guys want to just like follow along and just like, green's going to be our home screen, red's going to be our clock app, and then blue's going to be our timer. So what you're going to do, the easiest way to link these together is to add new pages and then put each one of them on a page and then just link the pages together. So that's kind of what we did right here. So I opened up a new page, and new page is right at the top right here in case you don't see it.
Okay.
And then on our first new page, we're going to move this screen to right here. And if you click on this home screen, you can kind of move around anywhere, but if you go to your X, Y, you can set where you want it.
That is important, right? It needs to be zeroed.
Yeah, so
or be moving all over the place, right?
Exactly. So anything zeroed is going to have your information right here. But if you click anywhere out in the page and then go to Style, so you can go to Page Alignment, and everything kind of defaults to being aligned left. But if you just hit Align Center, it won't look as wonky in your when you preview your prototype.
You can also use little page actions.
Of which one?
When you're clicked on the actual, so if you select the graphic on your page, when you see the inspector page, and now there's a little page icon up in the right bar.
Okay.
You can click on that, and that will take you back to page attributes.
Oh, nice.
The right
Okay.
bar, yeah. Go up a little bit. The
Right.
inspector, now
Yeah.
to the right of that, if you click on that, it takes you to the focus of the page.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that we've actually got dual focus going on right now.
Nice. That's really cool.
I feel like this is like Photoshop where there's like 1,000 ways.
Oh, there's always, yeah, there's a ton of ways to do the same thing.
I can do everything.
So we're gonna move this home page right here. We'll just put it right next to it.
So you're copying all the ones you've created into their, oh, I see.
Yeah, just so people who are following along can. So the first thing that you could do, so we have just a picture of what we want to link together. So under your default libraries, if you scroll down, there is Hotspots, and that just makes anything kind of clickable. So we're gonna reach out and grab our hotspot and just drag it over our clock widget, and then if you want to follow it, we're going to put this right over our green bar or our green page and as our home page. So when you click on your hotspot, you can now see on your inspector area, you have your hotspot name. I like to name everything, so we're just going to name this clock hotspot. Oh. And then on click, we're going to double click on click, and this is like your case editor. You can get pretty detailed into it, and we are going to get kind of detailed, but for now we're just going to, under links, we're going to go to open link, and then we're going to go to our new page, that new page we had made, and we're going to open it in our current window. So we're going to hit OK.
Where did you go to get that?
Yeah, I'll do that again. So you click on your hotspot, you go to your on click. That's going to take us. And then under links, you can go to open link, and then you can go to, it can open an external link, but for this case, we're just going to open another link. We're going to link it to the page that we added our second clock widget to, so which is our new page 2. So now if we just go to preview this, let's drag this over. We have our, everything's kind of aligned, and then when we click on this hotspot, it brings us to this next page.
So where did you go to make a hotspot?
So if you go to under your libraries, under your default libraries and scroll down, there's a widget called Hotspots. I'll make this bigger so everyone can see this.
Does it always have to be a hotspot? Can it be on an element?
It can be on an element.
Yeah, so you can put it on the whole page itself, but since we don't want the whole page to be clickable for that one thing, we're just going to put the hotspot. And then you can do the same thing for here on page 2. We're going to throw a hotspot on, and you can make this as big or as small as you want. We're going to go to stopwatch. And we're going to go to on click, open link, new page 3. And hit OK. So when we preview this, it's going to go straight to this page right here. And you could do that for as many pages as you want. You can add hotspots that will link you back to your home page. And that's probably the easiest way to do that. But I wouldn't say that's like a method I like to use when you're designing like web pages that don't need that many transitions between pages. You can also make everything into a dynamic panel, and that's the next step we're going to do. So I'll use the color bars for now. So what we're going to do is right click on it, and then you can go to convert to dynamic panel.
What does that mean?
So when you convert to your dynamic panel, that means if you had multiple objects on this, it all acts as one object, and anything that happens to this one set of things, it'll incorporate whatever you've included in it. So right after we created our dynamic panel, you see we have a state, and then under that we have like a rectangle in our state. So we're going to double click our state.
Can you show again how you created the dynamic panel?
Yeah, of course. So you're going to right click and then just convert to dynamic panel.
Now, does that flatten layers so you can no longer edit them?
It merges the elements that you created into a dynamic panel into one thing, so you can't edit it. But once you go into its actual state, then they act as individual objects. So you can
like if you put another layer in there,
yeah,
you can edit them separately.
Yeah, we can go into this, go into our icons, and then like throw this in there. And when we go back to here, and I move this around, everything moves together versus separately. But if I want to,
It's like a fancy group.
exactly. So
Fancy name.
now that we have this as our dynamic panel, and it's under our state, and this is where we like change everything. What we're going to do is we're going to double click on dynamic panel right here, and then we're going to add a state. And you can name this whatever you want. We're going to name this one red just because that's where our red box is going to go. And we'll rename. We'll do that later. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this red one and then go to our red state down here. And we're going to paste. And then we're going to zero it out. So, which just means we're going to put it to the top like that. And we're going to do the exact same thing for our blue one. So we're going to so now we just have one dynamic panel with multiple states. And what we're going to do now is we can go to our original state, and we can make the whole thing clickable or just a hotspot. In this case, we're going to make this circle, this little half circle thing clickable. So what you can do is you can just click on this and then go to our inspector page, go to on click, and then we're going to we're going to scroll down to set panel state. And then you can name your dynamic panel. That would be helpful, especially if you have multiple dynamic panels up there. So we're just going to click on this one, and then we're going to select state red. So when we click on this half moon thing, it'll just go to our red panel, and then we can add an animation. So we can make it fade, we can make it slide right, left, up, down, all the way. So we're just for the fun of it, we're going to do like a flip right and make it last 500 milliseconds. And then we can go to our red state and add this little icon too. And if we click on that, we can go to on click, same setup where we go to set panel state, we hit our dynamic panel, and then we just click on the state that we want to go to. So we're going to go to our blue, and we'll animate this by sliding up. And then just for our blue one, we'll make it so it goes back to the green. So we'll just add another random icon.
You want to show how to copy paste actions?
Yeah, I was gonna do that. Yeah, so you can all these, what we're doing right now, we're doing are under our inspector page for on clicks and stuff. So when you have a lot of these, this could really add up. And so what you can do is you can just gonna go to our state one, do a fade. So here, when we click on this, we can see all the interactions that are going on with that one element. So what you can do is you can right click, you can copy, and then you can paste that state. So that way, so if we had multiple elements that when you click on it, it just, all it does is just change the panel state. So if you just copy that one interaction and then paste it, you can go in and then just edit a little bit instead of doing the whole interaction. So now when we go to back to our original page, we have just one dynamic panel that we can move around, and then we can go to our preview. And we can see all the transitions that we just did. I like to use panel states when doing mobile applications. It just makes it easier to group things based on where they're going to be, based on like menu dynamic panels or your screen page dynamic panels. Another way you can do this is you can just literally just put things on top of each other, and Axure works like Photoshop with layers. And if you want to send something back, you can just right click on it, go to order, bring to front, send to back, bring forward, and you can make things clickable where it just shows things in front of you and hides the rest. I wouldn't recommend using that for page interactions, but they are useful for element interactions within a page and within dynamic panels, and we will go over that shortly.
So what's the paradigm of state? What does that mean, like, to me? Like, it's a layer within a panel.
Yeah, it's kind of like your dynamic panel is your overall group, and then within that group you have states, which can group individual objects or widgets.
How is that managed when you get a ton of elements inside that?
It can get pretty hectic, so that's another reason why I would suggest naming things that make sense to you or the team that you're developing with, so that way you can just quickly go to search, and I can type in red, and it'll automatically pull up that one state, so I can double click on it and then pull it up from there. And if things get a little too hectic, you can collapse and expand states and dynamic panels as they come in.
So we have scenarios where our, like, for instance, Envision or something like that, that have 99 screens.
Yeah.
I have more than that. There's one, I have 195 screens. That it's a completely interactive prototype.
Yeah.
And it seems like it could get really unruly, right? When you have that many layers going on. If I want to change one thing, or let's say I end up modifying an element or navigational piece, seems like this could have a cascading effect when it comes to having the ability to remodify that, right?
Yeah.
The dynamic panels don't have to be the entire screen like we're seeing now too. You could say,
Yeah, you could
my dynamic
like
panel
a small
is the
piece.
navigation, and
Right,
that's where states
that's
more
where it makes
into.
it, yeah.
Like, this one's clicked, that one's clicked.
Yeah.
The dynamic panel isn't necessarily a group, and I'm just wanting to clarify that because I keep hearing that statement made. Grouping is supported by this. Just Command G, you got it. But no, dynamic panel is something you interact with. It's something that you want those states with.
Yeah, you're shifting from one thing to another, right?
Correct.
Is what you're doing with the dynamic panel.
Yeah.
It's not just like you're grouping a layer in Photoshop.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna go into our wireframe now.
So in a sense, when you mention like overlapping, you know, your other example would be to throw, you know, one kind of flat layer on another flat layer.
Yeah.
So if I had something like I wanted a panel to slide up and only go halfway,
Yeah.
something like that would be better to use in an overlapping standpoint. Would it
Yeah.
be better if I wanted to have like a kind of a blurred object maybe come up from like an Apple kind of style where it kind of blurs the background a little bit and slides up and like a drawer, or just something where it's only taking up a quarter to a half of the page.
Yeah, you can totally do that using just the objects, layering them on top of each other, or if it's like an app drawer type situation, it would make sense to do a dynamic panel with your home screen and a dynamic panel with your
drawer.
Yeah, and then have.
Is it more manageable that way? Is that the reason why you want to use those dynamic panels?
That's how I've been using it, but you have.
Sorry.
He's over here. It's like I got this all figured out.
Yeah, I admit I kind of am here to make sure that my coworker gets up to speed on Axure because we just started working together, and I really need him in the program with me. But yeah, dynamic panels would help with that, and you would also, if you ever needed another layer of interaction in between them, you're already set up for that. And you've got a lot of customized management, not only on the page level, but on the dynamic panel level for that grouping or any other attributes that really need to do in Axure.
I almost feel like a dynamic panel is like a component or like a web part or something like that, right? It's a little module piece that you can move around and manipulate however you want once you make that dynamic panel.
Like a symbol?
Yeah.
More so than a symbol, right? Because a symbol is something that's just purely a repeated element in Sketch. You're not setting up a set of animations. So what she's talking about is I could have a hamburger icon. I can say when you click that hamburger icon that I have set up as a dynamic part, it always slides out this other menu.
Yes.
And you can just copy and paste that. It doesn't work the same way as symbols.
And you can program it in layers.
Yeah.
So kind of like the button sequence you just walked us through. You could do that on all layers and then do something else on the dynamic panel itself, or you could just do something on the dynamic panel itself and then tell other things when they do something that panel also reacts. So you can have that play between all of those different things.
So a lot of different listeners, right, depending on what's going on.
Exactly.
That's like scripted is what it looks like on that large panel for the dynamic panel.
Yep.
There's a lot of scripts that you can set up, right? Almost like
don't
if-then
actually-
statements.
Exactly.
Can you set up things if I have, like if it's idle for too long, can I have something like go away? Yeah, so I can set
Yeah,
up like
you can have a
after
page wait and listen.
5,000 milliseconds, so 5 seconds, it goes away.
Or toast.
Emphasis
Yeah.
milliseconds. People.
Yeah, 5, yeah, it's all milliseconds, so.
Yeah.
Does this generate an app at the end?
Not one that you would want to use.
Of course, the developer app. If that was the case, you'd be out of the job, buddy. So hopefully you don't want that to happen.
I just went through a project where they were using my resulting product as vaporware, and then I had to remind them, I'm like,
That happens a lot.
80% of what they're building.
Yeah.
It's still just a prototype at the end of the output.
Yeah.
There are some outputs with some CSS stuff, but it's not that great.
Yeah, and no matter what happens,
Is it?
yeah, it's like Sketch
I mean,
the same way.
see some colors and some sizes and spacing.
Oh, you mean kind of like how you can do Sketch to Zeppelin?
Yep.
No, it doesn't do that kind of thing, but you can make all, there's a notes tab. You can make all of the notes details that you want. And what I often find myself doing is dropping in all of those attributes like that. They can also do, if they've got, say, the color chrome or anything like that, they can color drop grab what they need. But the nice thing with this is they picked up a lot of what Envision app does in the feedback features. So when you publish up to Axure or any supporting web server, you can get all that commentary, you can get all of that conversation and discussion. And folks don't have to redline anymore because you can detail it all in here.
Yeah, so we're going to jump back to that project of food delivery, and we're going to go ahead and start making a wireframe. So one thing you can do with Axure is if you need guidelines for anything, you can just pull and grab from your from those top two bars, and you can go ahead and set your guidelines like that. Another cool feature is an adaptive view. So right now I think I'm defaulted to a landscape phone, but if you click on here, you can choose a preset of what you want, the width and height you would want it.
How do you do that?
So
Okay,
go
we don't see that.
yeah, I'll do it again. Yeah. So just in a new page under properties, we're going to go to adaptive right here, and we're just going to enable it.
Yeah.
So, and then in this little top icon right here, we're just going to click it, and then we're just going to go to our preset and go to a landscape phone and hit OK. We're going to revisit this because it's a really cool feature that it allows you to create page breaks. So that way you're prototyping not just on one platform at a time. So you can prototype for a phone and portrait landscape, a tablet and portrait landscape, and a desktop all at the same time. But for now, we're just going to focus on a landscape phone. The only reason we're doing a landscape phone is because we're just going to make it a little wider so it's easier to see, but we're going to design it as if it was portrait. So now that we have that bar there, this is like our restriction or like an area of play. So I kind of already drew up all the different wireframes for this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on the navigation header bar, the navigation menu itself, and then also some pages in the screen. So that way we can get like an idea of how to play around with these widgets, making those widgets and objects dynamic panels, and then also connecting them like we did previously.
Is that the width of the phone?
Yeah.
What's the other side?
This is all dead today.
Oh, it's just the stuff.
Yeah, so it goes from 0 to your 480, I think.
Gotcha.
So for our first, we're just gonna drag out this box and zero it out. You can either hit 0, 0 or just drag it there. It usually snaps it in place, and we're just gonna make this a little narrow like that. All right, and we're just going to call this, so for our app idea that compares delivery services, we're going to call it food court. So right here, we're just going to put food court right here, and then you can also style your text up at the top so you don't have to go to style all the time. And we're just going to make this a little bigger. We're going to take our placeholder icon and we're going to drag it up here, and we're going to make this way smaller. We're going to assume that there's going to be an icon for this app service up top right here. And then we're going to go to our icons and just grab the first thing we see, which I think is just not technically supposed to use as a hamburger menu. It definitely isn't, but we're just going to use it like it is.
That's a double-decker hamburger.
Yeah, just a quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah, double.
So right here we just have our opening header, and we want to add a search bar. So I'll just quickly show you how to, so there's certain object/widgets elements that are interactive. So we're going to take our text field one, put it down right below and stretch it out. And certain widgets have certain properties that are specific to itself. So if we just click on this text field, and then we can scroll down here on this inspector page, and then we can say what type we want. So we can say if it's either a text, search, we're going to say it's a search, and we're going to put our hint as search. And you can go into hint style and then completely style how you want your hint search to look. You can also go into hide hint after you start typing or hide hint after you focus. So we're just going to leave it for typing for now. And yeah, so we want to make this whole area a dynamic panel. So that way it stays constant and all the interactions that we do to it are going to be fine. So what we're going to do is just highlight everything, and you can right click and then go into dynamic panel. But first we're just going to look at what a master is. So we're going to convert this to a master. We're going to name this, we're just going to name it new master, and there's different drop behaviors. Place anywhere means that between different pages you can place it anywhere and it won't do anything. You can lock your master location, so that way as you go through your prototyping stage and you have different pages, you can your master is always going to be in the same spot on all pages.
So it's a shared element?
Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to hit continue. And
what did you select?
So I highlighted everything and then right click and then you can convert to master.
No, I mean which
Place anywhere.
Oh, I just placed anywhere. So under your masters bar down here, you'll have your new master, and it kind of acts just like a dynamic panel would, where you have all these different objects or elements in this one area, and then you can add interactions within them. When you add interactions to a dynamic panel, you have to add them within the state, because if you just add it to the dynamic panel itself, then everything's just kind of floating around. I like to use masters when doing like web pages, when you have a fixed menu that's and multiple pages. So that way it always just kind of bounces back. For this project, it's kind of small, like a mobile app, so we don't really need a master. So we're just gonna go back to our page here, and we'll leave it as a master for now, but actually
commonly used for nav bars though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Probably like a navigational footer as well.
I'm just gonna go to our new master.
I make
the dancing foot.
feet for my website.
And we're just gonna make this into our dynamic panel.
Make it feet.
And we're gonna make our search bar a dynamic panel, and I'll tell you why in a second. We're gonna label this our sticky header, because we're not going to do that right now, the micro interactions, but later we're going to make this into a situation where when you scroll up and down, that this top header disappears and only the search bar is going to be pinned to the top. So now we have like our header, we have our search bar. We're going to go ahead and group this. I'm just going to pull this out so I can have some text. So we're going to focus on 3 sets of dynamic panels. So our first one is going to be our header. Our second one's going to be our screen pages. And our third is going to be our menu pages. And we'll probably add a 4th just for our menu itself. So we have our header. We're going to focus on our screen pages now. So for our screen pages, we're going to go ahead and grab this placeholder and just put it right underneath it. Probably make it a little wider. And that's just going to be when doing all the background UX stuff, you realize that a lot of apps start off with just a picture and your categories. So we're going to just label this our categories, because for our food categories, we're going to go and make another one right below it, and we'll just label this our lowest delivery price. And put another one right below it, and we can name this our lowest or fastest delivery time. And this is pretty much what our landing page is going to look like. For now, it's our skeletal wireframe. We can come back and make changes as we go on. So we're going to select all these placeholders. Wait, try only selecting the page holders. And we're going to right-click, convert to a dynamic panel. And we're going to name this dynamic panel our screen pages. And then under our outline of our page, we can see that we have our dynamic panel called screen pages. And yeah, if you double click it, you can rename that state, and we're going to rename that state as our landing page. And when we go to that individual state, we can see that everything kind of zeroes out and everything is in our borders. So we're going to go back to our wireframe. And we're kind of just going to move this out of the way for right now. So if you select your dynamic panel, hit Control and arrow, it kind of moves everything by 10. So we know everything's kind of in place along that side, but we're just going to kind of get it out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is we'll start with our menu. So we want to, when we click on this hamburger thing, we want a slide out menu from the right-hand side. So we're going to drag out our box. And if I'm going too fast, just let me know.
Yeah, maybe slow down.
Okay.
Are you gonna, oh, sorry, you're gonna update the recording too on Facebook or something?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So just like from right here, does anyone have any questions about anything? Okay. Yeah, or comments.
You over there, like.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
You're probably more of an expert than we are, so feel free.
Yeah.
Why don't you move that out of the way?
I'm just thinking, one thing that you might want to talk about sooner rather than later are the 4 different cursor types.
Okay.
Because that will help with the tool selection and all of that management. Also, when it comes to, it feels like you jumped a little ahead with the masters thing.
Okay.
If you're not, because actually it's really powerful, there's a lot you can do with it, but you just converted it quickly back over to a dynamic panel anyway.
Yeah.
So at least to help people out for like the selections and all of that, you might want to at least walk through the cursors, because.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So right here we have our like select. This is what we've pretty much been doing. Going to our other one, like that. We'll go back. Is there more you can do with this?
Okay, so what it is you have 4 that you can choose from. The first one is all about actually selecting things. So if you want to grab things just on their edge and maybe anything's in a little quadrant, you don't have to select them in their entirety. You just have to touch them enough that when you release your mouse, you've grabbed everything. The second one, which is the one that looks like a little square outlined in a gray square, means you have to select everything. So if you've got a lot of elements that you're playing with on the page that you really want to make sure you have the layout you want, that's going to make you micromanage what you're doing, whereas the other might be more selection that you need. The third cursor is the connection cursor, which is what he was using earlier for the flow diagram. That's the only way you can get it, and you can use it on any object. It doesn't have to just be flow. The pen is a newer one, and it's already doing different things, but the whole point of it was to be able to create or customize objects. So any of the shapes that you have here. And one other nice feature that they have in the latest version of Axure, I don't know if anyone noticed the little dot.
There's the painter.
Huh?
How about the painter?
The painter?
There is another, yes, right, if you go to more,
Aha, I haven't used that one.
there is the painter right there.
I'm assuming it paints.
It works just like a copy and pasting styles like you would do in any kind of Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like there's, what's that, convert?
Connect, PT.
Connection points, yeah, so.
Yeah, you can change your connection points.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you can probably move can you move the connection points around?
Yeah, so,
Instead of having them just in the 4 spots, you probably can move them.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you can.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's used for. Yeah.
You can probably move that thing over.
So you can add more and, yeah. so
Although
you
I
can
don't
make it a
see
little
it on
more
my,
dynamic.
the recording, it doesn't show up.
It's sure coming in on top, but you have to.
Correct, you always have to do it like within the center.
You have to say like 4 and a side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got 8,000 of them all in
Yeah,
one
exactly, and you're only
Yeah.
using 3.
All spidering out from like one.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks
It's like a fractal.
anywhere you want. So if you are doing your flow and you can't find the connection you want, you can just go to connection point. So we're gonna go back to this select right here. Yeah, we can go ahead and talk about masters some more. So any interactions that you do in masters will convert to every single master that you lay out. So you don't have to keep repeating elements or repeating how your prototyping stages, and you can also, and then anything else I'm missing?
If we wanted to change food cart throughout to a different title throughout our entire project instead of manually doing it
Exactly.
in masters, how do you know you're changing it in the actual master and not just one individual rendition of it?
Okay, yeah, so you would have to, so right now we are underneath in that little master folder, so you would click on this master and you can go ahead and, well, we don't have any masters now, but so you can, oh, do I? Nice. Okay, so we're going to change this to food. And so when we go back to our wireframe page, this master, the title is changed. We can change the icon. So it's also good when you're doing your skeletal wireframes, so you don't have to go back and change everything. You can just change one element or one part of your master and everything will change accordingly.
How come the one above it didn't change?
So this is our dynamic panel.
Oh.
So pink is pink's going to be your master, and then that light blue shade is going to be your dynamic panel. Yeah. So now, so we have our header, we have our little sticky header area. We're going to make our menu. So we're going to make this like a little rectangular touch, and we're going to stick it right here. And we're going to go ahead and name this. We're not going to name it yet because we're going to turn it into a dynamic panel. But we're going to just throw out headings for our recent orders. And we'll put a placeholder for an icon that'll probably be right next to it. We'll put another heading for offers. And we'll do another heading for account. So you can go into your account, change your delivery address. And we kind of have like everything kind of just staggered around everywhere. So if you just do select what you want to align, you can go into align center, and align them. And we do the same with this. And then you can also distribute so that there's equal spacing between them. and we're just going to select that menu page that we just created, and we're going to right click and turn it into a dynamic panel, and we're going to call it menu.
Can you do that again?
Yeah. Which part? I'll walk through it all. So we have our little menu square, and then we have our like placeholders and names. So you can select them all. You don't have to highlight them all. You can just kind of hover over them, and then right click into dynamic panel. And then when it created our dynamic panel, we just named it menu. And we can go back to our header dynamic panel, and we're going to just double click it and go into that state. And we're going to click on this double stack hamburger and go to on click. We're going to go to show under the ShowHide. We're going to go to show, and we're going to show our menu. And we kind of want this to act as a button, so we're going to hit toggle, and we're going to animate the show in as a slide left and hide by sliding right. And you can make that as long as you want, and then we're going to just hit bring to front in case any of the other objects interfere with it. It'll always pop it to the front. And we're just going to hit OK. And that was under our header state for our dynamic panel. So when we go back, we can right click on our menu dynamic panel, right click, and we can just go to set as hidden. So now when we preview this, we can minimize this so it kind of replicates a phone. Sorry. And then when we click on our hamburger, I did the slides wrong, but let's go and change that real quick. Yeah, so this would be what our menu would look like. So we are going to go on. We have our one screen page, and we're just going to make a menu page. We're going to make our account page. So
real quick, can you make menu and interactions part of masters? Can you link them?
Yeah.
You can link them. So if we wanted this to happen, we could link this to our master menu item.
Yes, you can link anything to a master except for if you want to change a dynamic panel state, that dynamic panel, I believe, has to be within that master page.
You can get around it. It's more complicated, just like getting some of the links to work for masters can be more complicated. It's called a raise.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and just make our account page. So we're just going to slide this over too. Right here, we'll just put a big heading. We'll make this account. We'll put a placeholder for a picture, possibly, of our user. We'll put a little subheader here for contact information, and then another header here for delivery address. And since we're kind of linking up food delivery apps, we're going to probably put another header here for food delivery apps. And what we're going to do is we're going to select everything. Kind of like the select feature, we didn't have to like go and drag it over literally everything. As long as it's touching it, it's gonna highlight it.
What do you mean as long as it's touching it?
So like right here, if I just drag my mouse up, I'm not really
I see.
hovering over everything. It's kind of just touching it. And then I can right click dynamic panel, and then we're going to name this our menu page. And for our menu state, so for our menu page, this is our whole dynamic panel, and we're going to have different states with all our menus pages in them. So for this one state, it's just going to be our account page. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this here, and we're just going to go to set as hidden, so that way it's out of the way. We're going to go back and drag our menu back to where it was, and we're going to grab our landing page, control, and move it all the way back over. And we're just going to go to order and bring to the front, so that way anything that's hidden is going to be yellow, and the more things you have hidden it's just going to make this weird yellow hue. So we're just going to put this right here, and now we're just going to link everything together. So for our we're going to go to our menu, our header, and we're going to, we could just make this this text clickable, but I think it'll only make the text clickable, so we're going to actually put a hotspot on it. And for our hotspot, we're just going to name it home. And on click, we are going to show our screen page, but we also want to hide our menu page. And the reason why we did this in dynamic panels versus individual elements is because you only have to show one dynamic panel and hide the other one versus showing one thing and hiding a ton of different other things. Because once they're in that dynamic panel, we can just always change our panel state, so everything's kind of working in that one dynamic panel. So we're going to hide our menu page, and then also hide our menu. Click OK. And then we're going to go back out, and then we'll go to our menu right here, and we'll throw a hotspot over account.
Now, wherever the hotspot is like where it's clickable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anything in that green area, it's going to make your mouse turn into a clickable trigger. So you know it's clickable, and then also it is clickable.
If you also wanted to show an example, what if we had offers be a link, or is it possible to have that in action, just offers be in action?
Yeah, like
You could just select offers and then put the action on it. You don't have to use the hotspot if that's your option.
yeah. So if you want to just click on offers, you can go to on click, and then show what you want, hide what you don't. For this, we're just going to go to account, and then on click, we're going to show that menu page, and then we're going to hide our screen page.
Another way of going about it is you could go onto the dynamic panels themselves and say, when shown, hide the others.
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways to do things all the time.
So we're just going to quickly see what that looks like. So we have this. Well, we hid that. Well, that wouldn't be hidden, but in this case we did. And then we have our account stuff here.
Is the menu shoving it down?
I think so for some reason.
Is it because you've told it to always have it to front?
No, it's because I accidentally hit push and pull widgets. So when you hit push and pull widgets, it kind of pushes and it pushes and pulls widgets. So like just highlighting that, that's a really good feature if you're doing like an accordion style menu where you want to click on something and it expands, and then also when you click on it, it closes. I can go into that in more detail, but after, I guess. So we'll just go back and preview it. I think like before, it's still going to hide our screen page, but we'll just pretend like that works. Oh no, okay, we're good. Then we go to our account, we go click here, and it brings us to our landing page. So that's like the beginning stages of starting like a wireframe or a skeleton wireframe of where you want stuff out. So I had already made all the wireframes for this, and we can just like quickly go through and see what they would look like. So this will be our landing page. This top part is going to be our screen pages. This bottom part is going to be our menu pages. And the reason why we're doing it all in dynamic panels in different states is because there's not that many pages. So it's a really easy Axure project. So from our landing page, from our categories, we go into categories, then we go into specific categories from a specific object, and then we can go into our specific restaurant from there, which compares our delivery times and prices. And then for the fun of it, I made a random page, so if you don't know what to eat, clicking random would bring you to this wheel where you can spin the wheel. And then for our menu pages, this is what our menu pages would look like. So these are all the different states that are in our menu page, and same with this. These are all our different states that would be in our screen pages. And then when we click on them, instead of saying show and hide different stuff, all we have to do is hit select panel state, and then click on the one that you labeled it as. So our menu pages here, we have our recents, our offers, our apps, and our accounts. And that's pretty much the basics of starting up a wireframe and then linking them together using dynamic panels, and briefly a little bit about how to use headers. So
in the original starting of this, you created a flow.
Yeah.
How does that tie into that? Is that just a place I can create a flow, or is there certain things that I can actually do?
That was more so just to showcase how to use objects and elements and how to create a flow. But
can you tie, like once I create a flow, I could give it to Lindsay.
Yeah.
To then she just has to just read the flow and then create the wires on her own, or can she tie the flow to the wire?
You can. The flow that we created was more of a task analysis than like a flow of hierarchy for the like a sitemap of information architecture, but I'm sure you can.
You totally can.
Yeah.
And if you know going in that you want to do that, you probably would want to use fewer dynamic panels and more pages, so that way you're actually linking to all of the pages.
Right. Here are the pages I want you to play around with, because I think this flow should be like this. Yep. You then fill in the pages, and a visual designer can do
Is any of these accompanied with user stories? Are there?
You can. So for our flow, for our task analysis, we kind of saw how this whole bottom part of switching between apps leads to a lot of different interactions of switching between apps. So we can, from looking at this, we can go to all our wireframes, and we can see how many steps we cut down by just looking at one app and then comparing the delivery price and the time. And I guess you can create like a user situation or scenario from that.
Now, do you usually, for apps, you will not create a user story since it's mostly for software and how the software application will work? Because when the software,
say what? It's not just software, it could be for anything. Because I used Axure to prototype our dashboard once, so whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, but I have to work with business analysts per se. So my developers request everything that I design is a JPEG.
Okay.
So they throw the JPEGs into the user story, and they only start developing and coding once they have a user story with the look from the JPEG. So basically, you know, they don't have anything interactive to actually do the work themselves. They just want it written out, just a picture of it, and then they go ahead and start developing.
you could probably try to work with them, because with this and axshare.com,
Yeah.
you can get that URL and then just get them used to clicking through it. Like, this actually gives you more information with this and the notes. There's more information here. Feel free to just click through it.
Yeah, we're talking about the Superior Court of Maricopa County. They've been doing the same thing for like, ever. There's no way of, otherwise their business analysts are not going to be usable. Then you have, the developers starting doing stuff differently, which means they won't need 20 of them. They only need 2 of them.
Oh, come on. You can help them grow up.
No, you cannot, trust me, you cannot. We just redesigned basically, actually the juvenile court does not have any type of software. They just deal with stacks of paper when you go and show up in court. So we designed the software that now the judges are going to use inside the courtroom. But of course, a juvenile case can have, if you think foster care adoptions, you can have like 20 people involved in one case, plus the state, attorneys for the kids, attorneys for the parents, the foster parents. So the software it's so detailed and so elaborate that, yeah, basically I am, using Axure to design, but I use it as if I was using Illustrator, because at the end, I just export it to a JPEG and throw it into a user story.
But they're specific, give us a JPEG, nothing else.
Yeah, no, you don't give anything interactive.
Because the other great thing that Axure has that is one of those things that is great, but I hate it at the same time. You can export an actual doc that's the specification. And that's part of why notes are so powerful in here, because it will detail out all the interaction that you put in.
Yeah, but that would mean that I will have to train the business analyst to use Axure.
No, you export the actual Word doc and then attach the doc instead of the JPEG. And that doc is literally a specification. And I'm not saying by any means that's your solution.
No, it's not, because, at this point, I can only do what I'm told to do, and that is basically design the look that they want to add to the user stories that they're going to give to the developers. And of course, then the developers can come to me and ask me, okay, so how is this designed? So when I click on that, what pops up if it's not, specifically given to them in the user story? But just creating one screen, it can have basically 8 pages of user story and 2 JPEGs, and can take, 3 months before they can actually develop that.
Hardly agile.
Designer,
You use stories and then you said 3 months on that.
No, it does take forever, and that's why when they did criminal court and family court, it took about 3 years. And it's simpler than the juvenile court.
Those kids are like 18 now.
Oh yeah, and you still have a spot for when they are over 18. They're still part of the case, but it's grayed out because now they are over 18.
Come on, there's nothing to worry about. They're talking about closing the last juvenile prison in the state.
The prison, not the court.
Yeah, but the court has nowhere to send them to, so I keep the court.
No. We're not talking about where the court's sending the kids. We're talking about, foster care, the state, everything that has to do with children people under 18 goes through the juvenile court. So it's a pretty elaborate system. But yeah, they don't want anything interactive. You can't,
You're gonna wait till some people die off.
That's it.
They weren't even using Axure. They were using Paint. Who said Paint earlier?
No way. No.
Yeah, they were using Paint. They were actually do screen capture from the software that's already existing for criminal court, put it in Paint, and give that, and develop it that way. Yeah.
Is this are the developers an internal resource, or are they somebody that's
No, it's an internal. They do use contractors, but they do have staff of through the core technology services. But it is just how it is.
So, going back to this, I had a question about taking this and making it interactive. Is there anything that we haven't seen so far that makes that happen quickly? Or is that a whole other, what was that?
Axure.
Yeah, or to share it to other people, or just like...
No, this particular screen, so you have all the different steps that a user would go through.
Yeah,
I want to make this into that interactive page by page. Is there anything that kind of converts this into that, or you kind of have to copy and paste?
I've been copying and pasting, but I'm sure is there a quick way?
There are, but that's once you become familiar with all of the tools and the layers of them. This is more of just like a, hey,
Sure.
here's how to start with it.
Sure.
Yeah. As you build all the pages, like he's demoing here, and you've made the interactivity, you can run it locally, you can publish it up somewhere,
Yep.
you can publish the specification doc, you have quite a few options around it.
Or you can share it and, yeah.
Yeah, but if you publish it to Axure,
yep,
or a supporting server, I say that because wherever we work.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought we had to deal with some stuff like around lockdown before. No, this is like Fort Knox. It's like, it's just, you know.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to share it via the share. I have to basically share it locally in our server.
Our boss is
basically
apparently the king of Axure, which is making my job fun. He got a lot of different protocols passed just so we're allowed to go to the website to upload, and we have to change the password on all of our prototypes every 30 to 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I wish there was a way to do that in Mac, but you can on Axure publish up either through the app. There's the three little icons you can preview, but there's share and there's publish.
Right.
And with those, yeah, you tie your account and do all that fun jazz. It's still, you can set up a password in here. I don't think you can reset it through here yet. I think you have to go through the web interface to reset a password. But you can at least still have that protection if you need it, be able to share a URL if you need to, and actually have it be clickable for people to go through it.
Only when you publish, it goes externally and you can use the password. When you're sharing, you can share in your own server.
Correct.
Save it in a folder, and basically you don't need
some of the other console features that are on Axure to find out, like, because I think where you're going with it is you want to see it working, you want to see if you like it or not.
I think you answered my question at the beginning, but that's helpful too. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the one thing that I see in maybe the more recent competitors to this, more less verbose. That's a long night. I need one more of these. Anyway, you know, like for instance, XD or Envision, at least XD, I'm able to do this and create that full big picture and easily just wire it up at that point. Not as extensive as this goes, but like that to me is like what you're talking about. So I saw it from afar. I just draw the lines and I run it. You know, that's where I think this at that point falls a little short because you can't see everything all at once.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
If they put that in, that would be pretty cool. That's where I was getting at with that flow.
Yeah.
Like, can I create the flows and just say every box is a screen, turn it on, then start putting it in, then run it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at least at the top level, you can have a BA or an IA. Everybody knows that, yeah. Information architect, you know, business analysts working together, we're making these flows that have the decision making, where then I'm now switching flipping it and saying, okay, every time I see that box, that is a screen, I want to work with it, like an app map of some sort. Populate it with all the UI that you want, link them up, and then run it, you know. I think that
you want to blur the lines
in
the same document, pass it
Everything
along.
Axure's publishing on their forums, they're letting that go to Xcode or XD.
Yeah, it's funny how they're not really following that pattern.
Yes and no, because think of how they came about. It was a bunch of people who needed a handoff between designer, information architect, and other people. So it's kind of like the
Was
person who
it
makes
developed by Microsoft at one time? Because there's so many Microsoft references in here. Like certain things, like the paintbrush. Like I saw a paste special. So I'm like, oh Jesus. You know, like at first I was like, whoa, I wonder if a Microsoft person actually did that.
I know that they have some developers who came from Microsoft, but if you're on their forums enough and you're asking for something and you get enough people asking for the same thing, you're eventually going to get it. And they kind of admit that, like, hey, we've given so many people so many things, we know that we need to kind of pare it back and streamline it back down.
Yeah.
And supposedly that's what they're going to do in the next couple of iterations.
Oh, okay.
So
Creating more streamlined workflows that you can.
that might be something, I haven't seen too many requests for that in the forums, but you can always jump in and start asking.
Well, I suppose in the forums, yeah, I figure, and I'm only assuming that the forums are starting to, is more populated with people that are really good at it. You know?
Yes and no.
Or newbies.
Yeah.
More people joining now.
Oh,
It's
okay.
more popular.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's one of the few leading rapid prototyping tools out there, especially now that XD is trying to say that, hey, we've got this great base. Like, wait, you're doing what the Sketch does.
Yeah, and they admit it. I mean, they're going to come out with, we're going to compete with Sketch. And, you know, yeah, they admitted that. I guess when you said rapid, it gets a little hairy on that. It's for me to say.
You don't need a third party though, like InVision. You don't have to put a plug in like InVision.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So.
Well, I mean, with this, granted, if I get good at this, I definitely could probably rapidly make it.
I know rapid more detailed with this.
Right.
Like how we started out with, you've got a screenshot and a button hotspots, you could totally rapid, or you could actually draw all the components and make it extremely intricate.
Absolutely.
You make them reusable and you put them in libraries, and similar to what you can do with Sketch and symbols, you can do in here as well. You can create reusable components that an entire team uses.
Create your own symbols, import them as images, and then you can use them any way you want.
So you're right, if you go detailed, it's not really rapid, unless of course you're looking from a library, but you can rapid.
Yeah, because he created something fairly rapid in a 3-page layout with interaction between the two, fairly rapidly. But
yeah, so we're just gonna
It's a rabbit hole.
jump in. So from all those pages, everything's kind of already linked together. So we're just gonna walk through it, and then this is what it would look like. Make this a little bit bigger. Oh, probably smaller. So we have our menu page. We go to our categories. We can go to our specific category. Then we can click on this, and then this is our specific restaurant with our delivery, what apps are used with it, and our time and price, and all of that. So
can you link it to go to the app?
Yep. And then so whenever you click on that delivery app logo, it'll pull it up on that app's site. So if you pull up Postmates, it'll pull it up on Postmates. So now that we have our skeletal wireframe, we can go in and kind of make it, flush it out a little, populate it with some like pictures and stuff. If you notice, we didn't add any back buttons, so that's kind of an issue. So what we're going to do is, I already made a final prototype, so we're going to look at it, and then I added some micro interactions. I'm just going to highlight over the micro interactions, and then kind of show you what else you can do with it. Let's minimize this. So the first thing you'll notice is we have pictures. When you scroll down, we have that that header disappear, and then our search bar kind of stay there. But when we scroll back up, you get that bar kind of popping back up and down. And then if you look at the pictures, I don't know if you can tell.
Parallax.
Yeah, we got a little parallax going on. So we can go here. Usually when I try to do like a prototype this like of high fidelity, I try to put as much real information in it as possible. So here's my like address. I can go to my recent, the apps that did the delivery price at the time, and how long it took for delivery. Same with offers. We can go to apps. So like search your phone to connect to delivery service. You can search phone.
How long did this take you to do the hi-fi mock-up?
Not that long, probably like an hour and a half. So
how long have you been learning this?
Not that long. Like
working with it for what, like 5 months?
Yeah, 5 months.
5 months.
So like,
You're thrown into the deep end.
How smart are you?
Yeah. Like what?
It's not a very complicated.
Yeah.
After I got the job, they didn't even know what software. I just picked Axure. I never used it before, and I created the first entire software in it. So
How much is it now?
it was like $45.
Wait, Well, how much? It's $40
It was
for
something like that for
Axure?
the, yeah, for the
I was gonna
license.
say,
It's like 140, 150.
is that like a state
Because
price?
I don't know. I don't
you
know.
can get a basic license, where there's some, where you have like the baseline features, and I want to say it's $100.
It could be. I go through procurement, so
Oh, okay.
it's basically,
Gotcha.
you know.
But there are 3 levels of it, and I know if you work anywhere, because one of the things that this does, that Axure does, that no other prototyping tool I've used can, is share with a team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that has a little different pricing structure.
Yeah, I do
think-
have the teamwork,
Yeah, I think that's
even
like
though my team doesn't care
$150
for it.
license for that one.
Straight up, no upgrades,
They got a
Well,
subscription and a forever.
do they?
Yeah, it is. I mean, once you purchase it, that's it.
Do they still have the forever? I know they had the forever license and then they added subscription.
well, the
I don't know if they kept
Forever
it.
license now has a bunch of conditional stuff. So people like me who are grandfathered in, because I've been using it since Axure 4, I don't want to admit what I paid for it back then. But I feel like
A lot.
I paid like $250.
Oh, I thought it was like in the
I remember the
Every
procurement
upgrade is
process
over 50%.
when I bought it for my former team and it was a lot.
But no, it does have some conditional logic in there about if they ever do this rework, then there might be, they might follow an upgrade model like what OmniGraffle does. But for right now, it's just, if you buy, say if you bought version 7, you got version 8 for free. Especially since between 7 Pro became Team and Pro now is like a space. Yeah. But if they ever do a 9 and they don't do a rework to it, you'll get that too. But if they do the rework to it, there might be, yeah.
I don't think OmniGraffle has the license.
I
know it's,
I have their PhD.
yeah, if you want to upgrade,
$200.
it cost me $100 to upgrade my 6 to 7.
Okay. So it's not horrible.
It's not that
I
terrible.
always thought it was more expensive.
Well,
It was.
with
Yeah,
Axure,
one
the
time.
upgrades are included. For the time being, there are no charges to upgrade. With OmniGraffle, every time they
Right.
change, you
Annoying.
pay for the new version. So you just pay half as much as buying it now.
Yes, so also if you want to like make something this high fidelity and you're kind of showing it off to investors or anyone, you kind of want to make it functioning too. So these are the connected apps that I have, but let's say I just downloaded Uber Eats and I want to add Uber Eats, so I can type in Uber Eats
I'm banning Uber.
and then you see that.
They
Super
cancel
now
on me
connected.
every time. No. Freaking.
But now you can compare the delivery prices. So we can go back to our home, just like clicking through it. I also added like that parallax to our menu, like our category. I didn't flesh out the entirety of it, but just so you can kind of see what it would look like. So we can go to Asian food, all the Asian food restaurants that are close to my delivery address, and then you click on the first one. And then you can embed media, so you can embed like a YouTube video or Google Maps. So right here, this is what a Google Map would look like. So if I click on this, it will pull up another link with that map address. And then down here would be your like delivery, the service that would deliver it, and then also like highlight which one's faster.
That's because you linked it to the external apps, to their apps. And that's
Yeah.
why it has these functions. You did not add these functions yourself, right?
No, well, this is just, so this, since we are still in a prototype, none of this is really functioning. If I can't really click on this, but if I was like demonstrating it, I would probably make this clickable.
And you will go to posting.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Stay
And
in
then,
the exposure.
as I said, you can get an app at the end of this.
Right.
And then, yeah, if anyone wants to invest. And then we also have like a random wheel, so if you don't know what to eat, you can just like spin the wheel, and it lands on.
You got
Asian
orange.
food. If you hadn't noticed, I only made the Asian food category.
All Asian.
And then also, if you search Asian food or just Asian, it'll pull up Asian.
After
So-
this meeting, Chinese restaurants are going to be
I want to go to Raw.
oh, really busy.
Interaction. So right
Yeah.
now, where it's at, he can't search for any
I
other.
can't search
They
for
have to
anything.
come up except for Asian because he put that interaction in.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like a live functioning
Yeah,
app
yeah.
where I coded something. But, and then earlier at the beginning, we kind of went over adaptive views. So we landed on landscape view for a phone. So this is what the phone landscape view would look like. But you can add different views on top of views, so that way you're prototyping for more than one thing at a time. So I prototyped the desktop version for this while doing this. So if we full screen this, oh no, okay, let me do that.
If you're in Chrome, you might need to do a hard refresh.
Oh, okay. Try that again.
There is an extension you can install for Chrome so that that doesn't happen.
Can you talk about responsive versus adaptive?
Yeah. What do you mean by?
Is it the same?
Those are two different things, right?
Yeah,
This is not a responsive application. It's a
No, I was
Okay,
gonna
okay.
say that,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's kind of.
So you're saying when it
What
loads
side
into a
is-
view, it will pick to that,
It'll go to the closest one.
right?
Yeah.
But if you can do responsive, I've seen it where you could switch it.
The background doesn't though.
Yes, there's certain levels of it you can do.
Okay.
But even when doing that, you can cause problems by using it.
Yeah, like Mike Vicios does it all the time, but I don't know what it takes to get to that point. Again, ceasing to be rapid at that point. When you're like, I could just coded it quicker.
Yes and no, because like I can throw together, and I know I've been at it for a while. Like he prototyped out an entire thing, and I put the, it took you, what, a couple days to get all the pages designed out? But it took me less than 4 hours to get it mocked up in high fidelity in Axure.
Yeah.
So you can get to a point where it's faster than actually hand coding.
What
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
if you don't know, it's gonna be slow.
Well,
You know what I mean?
But that's the same for everything. It's just like with OmniGraffle. I mean,
Totally, yeah.
I mean,
OmniGraffle's
if I
starting to
can
get too much.
code, she's gonna do it faster. If you
Yeah.
cannot design, I'll do it faster. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know why, but it's not really working. But this is what our adaptive view for our desktop version of that app would look like, where it's just a banner, and all our menus are broken out into our top bar right here, and this is a free scrolling banner that scrolls on its own.
This is a whole new page, right? This is not the same page.
no, it's the same page in the site map.
It's the same page, but you can break it down. So right here, I can go back to landscape phone, and then go up here to our 1200. And if you notice, there's things that are in red. So that means those objects or elements were deleted in this view, but they weren't deleted in the landscape phone view. So
Is it because they didn't work, or you need to adjust them?
You assign them to a specific view.
yeah, you can assign them to a specific view. Yeah, so that's really useful. So
But you didn't, like, with the image, you didn't say, oh, I want it to stretch at this. You had to put another image that width, right?
correct.
So there's two images, that one's just turning off and one's turning on.
Yeah, and so for when you jump from phone to desktop, that's usually the case because,
Sure.
But when you're within the mobile space of phone and tablets, you can just kind of stretch out what you already have and then get the same effect. The only reason why you'd want a completely different view for your desktop view is because you're working with a lot more space, so we don't need to have that hamburger menu. We can kind of break it out into what we're doing here.
Essentially, it's a different layout.
But my question is more so, how do you design the two different layouts? Because sometimes it's literally using percentages and expanding it.
It's not responsive, so you will have to know that, you know, what pixel space you're gonna design.
I didn't know if it was smarter than that.
No, it does a lot of smart things, but that's not one of them.
Shucks.
Yeah, and that's pretty much everything. We can go over the mini micro interactions if you guys want to see how that works, or if you guys have any questions up to this point. Comments?
What are all the options for output when you're done with the whole process and you have your animated prototype?
Yeah, so you can go ahead and click publish, and you can publish to Axure Share. And I think I already had published this, but you can go ahead and name this whatever you want, project ID. You can also add passwords to it if you wanna send it to a specific person, if you don't want everyone to like look at it. Some other stuff you can do is you can go to generate HTML files, and you can completely change how things are viewed depending on what browser or what system opens this.
And which pages you're gonna actually pick and choose. You can pick and choose pages when we're down, yeah, that you want to export.
HTML or publishing up to Axure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you're not publishing the flows, and you're not publishing.
You're only publishing those things in the second half that you want to publish.
When you do publish the flow at this big, and then when it gets to that big, will it?
It should snap.
It
back and
basically
forth.
shows that there's like an arrow or something, and then it gets into your prototype.
You're
Like
talking
show
about,
the flow and then show the prototype.
you're talking about the flow that he actually made. It'll just be whatever size it is. You scroll around.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And then to get to the next, to the prototype.
Mhm.
So say the flow, go to the pages. So you had, or not page notes.
That's one more.
Yeah, the pages.
Oh, okay.
So you have the flow. Then you had your prototype underneath. Well, you had, let's go like the first prototype. So once it's published, you have this, you see your flow, and then somehow you get to the next part of it, and you show your.
Either something on the page has been made interactable, or you can use the pages thing on the column.
Yeah,
on the
you'd
left
have to
and
navigate it.
through.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then another thing is you can use that for fonts. This whole time I've been using Open Sans, but what you can do is, just so you don't have to keep clicking Open Sans every time, you can upload any web font you want, and then you can go to font mapping. So I have it where anytime I use Arial regular, it automatically just changes it to Open Sans.
Can you post change all that stuff too, then I'm assuming?
Yeah.
So after you've done everything, you could change that to whatever you want.
Exactly. So that, yeah, so you can essentially just change how your fonts look as you go. And if you use masters, you can also change it that way too, depending on where you use them.
That's also how you can use graphical fonts.
What is the code like when you export it in HTML? So like awful garbled mess, or?
No developer would want to use it.
Yeah.
So basically, wrong page.
That's why they redevelop it. Right?
Mine doesn't work on it, right, sometimes. So
Yeah, you stay forever.
Yeah, you basically can copy and paste
Where do
the
you,
code.
where would you,
Coded.
the CSS, where would you find that if you wanted to use some of that?
Honestly, every project I've ever worked on where I'm needing to hand over code, I put Axure down and I work in HTML.
Oh, okay.
So is there a use case where you'd actually want to utilize the HTML export over, I guess maybe if you only want to keep it local versus exporting it to their server or whatever?
So in the event where we're working, if we weren't able to publish up the RP file and use Axure, what I've done other places is publish out the HTML and then host that on a company server. That way someone can still click through it. I'm just giving them an internal URL that IT or someone help me coordinate. So that is an advantage to using that.
Is it zippable and ran locally?
Yeah.
is it TFS file with it, or is it just?
Kind of, but they do it in a weird way with JavaScript. That's what I'm saying. I know, yeah.
Yeah, okay, not perfect.
Not very edit friendly.
It's not very edit friendly, and I don't think I ever got to work with you as a front end.
No, we didn't, sadly.
Yeah, but I'm someone who's also big on accessibility, and that's part of one of the other things I like about this is you can make those comments and you can put alt tag as indexing where it needs to be, and those zonings that you can't always convey in like flat documents. But I can do the same thing in HTML, hand all of that over, and so that way all it is a code snippet. But kind of like how we're working now from a design language system, if you already have something like that in place at a corporation, I don't really want to be handing you as a developer CSS. I want you to use it to do
I was just gonna say the same thing. I mean,
So I
you're
can just-
eliminating somebody's work, so
Yeah.
basically you don't now need developers anymore because you just click a button and here's your code.
Do you use, being governmental, you're dealing with accessibility too,
Well,
giving notes.
or actually having issues of accessibility. Well, because everything is so secure, I cannot use the publish. I have to share it locally in my server, and my developers will have access to that one specific server where I'm, saving this out for them to share. But nevertheless, I prefer that it's two separate things. I prefer that you cannot turn this into code because, you're missing the other
So,
components
Why I
if you
would
do
like
that.
CSS, for instance, I wouldn't use it in my code, but I would just grab the color side of it. The certain things that CSS has, like the text font, text sizes, text font, whatever.
Puts you on the right path.
Just put you on the right path, exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use it, but just for
But
that.
then hopefully you're still turning that into something larger.
Yeah.
Because I know like one of the adventures I get to go on is how apparently the development team I'm working on has 80 different CSS qualifiers for the buttons. And 16 of them result in the same button.
I've seen that often enough.
I do have one question about a specific kind of interaction. Right now I'm working on something where if I wanted to reorder a menu item as an end user, and so there's lots of different steps. I see it, I want to click on it, and it changes states. Then I want to drag it, I want it to change states. Then I drop it in, and it will change states again. Can this do all of those states?
Yes. Yeah, so from when I've used it, you can. You can have it where mouse over changes its state, clicking on it changes its state, and then when it's a dynamic panel, you can make items draggable, just like you just said. I'm pretty sure you can change its state on drag. I haven't personally done what you just described, but from what I've just done with Axure and then using it around it, I've seen some of those.
I can at least find a tutorial. It does exist.
It
That's all
does,
I need to know.
it exists. It definitely does.
YouTube.
Was there any other micro interaction? I know we're nearing end time. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to go over real quick, or questions about stuff that we did before?
Yeah, when you say micro interactions, are you talking about small scale interactions or interactions within interaction?
More so the parallax stuff, the sticky header,
Things that bounce.
Yeah,
Throb.
your animation type stuff.
Something or Instagramming. Do you want to do the parallax thing just real quick?
Yeah.
Just that one?
Yeah.
Example.
I'm just gonna grab a picture real quick. Any suggestions on pictures? Or a picture of something?
Cat Asian.
Cat.
Why did Asian food come up?
Yeah.
Alright, so now that we have our picture,
Very amused.
we can kind of paste it. Usually we do a picture with a larger image size or quality, because usually for parallax you want to make it a little longer than the picture actually is, so it actually has some room to move around. And we're just going to throw a couple of text boxes or boxes in general over it. And that's my
Axure would support the internet, so come on.
They support the internet.
The internet's made of.
It's the only reason the internet still exists. Cat.
I think I found the female male version of Lindsay.
Okay.
She's in the cat. She's in the cat.
So we're
I like cats. I like when they leave me alone. That's what cats act like dogs.
Yeah, me too. I'm not really a cat person, but I do like cats that act like dogs.
I have dogs that act like cats.
When they eat, whatever you.
So we're
can leave for a week.
Take our cat pictures, make it a dynamic panel, and we'll just name cat. So we have our text boxes. We're just going to say text.
Text. Cats meow. Oh.
And we're just going to add more stuff so that way there's enough on the page to make it want to scroll. Yeah. And then so on our page properties, we can go to on window scroll. So we're going to click on window scroll, and then we're going to go to our move. So we want our background picture to move at a different rate than our front, so we make that parallax. So we're just going to hit move, and we're going to go to cats, and we're going to go move.
That's the background.
Yeah, cats is our background.
All the all the pictures.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go to move to, and then under Y. So here you could just say pick a certain coordinates and it'll move there. But since we're doing it relative to how we scroll, we're going to make this into a function. So we can click our function, and then we can insert our variable function, and we're going to hit window scroll Y. So that's just our Y-axis on our scroll. And we want to make this negative. And we want to make this, we don't want to make it move the same as our scroll. We want to make it move a bit slow. So we're going to divide it by like 1.5. Hit OK. And I really hope this works. So
you lost me. No.
And if it does, I want to know how you know all that. How you figure all that.
Kind of like coding.
It is kind of like coding.
I'm sure there's a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Well, click on the final one. You might not be able to see it unless you click on it.
Download the DLL, and then you execute it.
DLL, man.
You have to create that file.
There you go.
We're taking your Mac away from you. You can keep talking about that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So here we have like our text boxes. So when we didn't really add enough to scroll. So now when we scroll, we have our cats moving at a different rate.
I designed a website that did the same thing. All you have to do is they had one solid picture of background, and then the entire thing was, the website was scrolling. But in this software, you can do that. You can actually, once you put a background photograph, that stays intact no matter how long your website, your page is. It was a lot simpler than, what you just did. That's because I had no idea how to do what you just did.
Well, I can go over that again if it's fast or over anything else that we kind of.
Well, you just record it, so we can probably.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.